trail today has led us to north central New Mexico in the Hashknife outfit, the home of Doggie and Joyce Jones. Hello, my name's Leon Ham, and I'm your host again for Legacy Trails and Tales. This cattle ranch was established in 1848 by Doggie's great-grandfather. Hang around and listen to the tales of days gone by. Operation of a ranch, most of us know how difficult that is, but tell us about the effect of the drought the last few years, and then also these Corriente cattle, how they work on the ranch.
Well, the drought, of course, has been very costly because we've got quite an investment in farm equipment, and we're getting to the point where there's times we can't even get a chance to use it because of the drought. I'm sure you know, and so does everybody else, what farm equipment costs nowadays. It's just outrageous. And the Corriente cattle fit in better during a drought than beef cattle because they don't require near the care, and you're not really trying to fatten the Corriente cattle like you do the beef cattle. All you want to do is grow some horns mainly for recreational purposes. We renamed our Corriente cattle. We call them recreational cattle.
Well, Doggie, let's take a look at the rest of the ranch, okay?
That'll be fine.
Okay, Doggie, tell me about the haying and back how you got the hay in here. How did you get it up? Did you use that attic space or?
There's a track up there. Can you see it?
Yes.
Each wagon had two slings on it. They're big slings. And they packed this wagon down. It was a hay wagon. Had sides on it that were about 3 feet high. And you'd fill that up to that level, and whoever was driving that wagon, he'd set it out and he'd kind of walk over it and mash it down and put the second sling on there, and then the second one looked like a loaf of bread.
Okay.
Anyway, they come in here with, pulling it with a horse, and then the people that are working in the barn, they had another team here, and I've got the mechanism. It would roll those slings up together, and then it would go straight on up until you said whoa, and when you said whoa, that guy driving that team would stop, and that machine locked in place, and get a different rope, and then he'd pull it down whichever direction you wanted to go in this barn with the hay, and he'd pull it up and down. And then the guys that were on the stack would all go, whoa. And then here again, like if the track's in the middle of the barn, but if you wanted it way off to your right, you take your pitchfork and stick it in a big sling and get to rocking it back and forth, and there's a trip rope on the bottom. You get to swinging it back and forth, and when you got it where you wanted it, you jerk that and lay that hay out.
And obviously, you just start at the bottom and just keep building.
Oh, yeah.
Until you got.
Well, I can remember when I was a kid and working up here, I could touch the top of this roof.
Right here in this same barn. Yeah.
In this same, well, you had two of them. We filled them to the top.
One thing that you said about whoa. Now, a lot of our viewers won't realize that those horses didn't have a man sitting on them.
No.
They just obeyed that command from a distance.
Right.
Now, isn't that something today, horses are not used enough to hardly even know how to stop,
Well, it was the same way when we were feeding. You're on a wagon by yourself, and you're out there busy with the pitchfork flicking the hay off to the cattle, and you've got the long reins kind of wrapped around the front in the wagon, but you just cluck at the horses like so, and whoa.
And they did exactly what you wanted and waited on you.
Yeah.
Totally trained, yeah. Well, everything was hand done, we know that. Very little machinery. Yeah.
Wasn't any machinery. My grandfather died and there was a tractor on this place.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. He died in the 50s.
Really? Even up till then?
Yeah, 50. Yeah. He died in 52.
Yeah.
And that's when my brother decided we better get a little tractor, and he went and bought a little Ford tractor.
You had a brother named Charlie?
Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to another piece of the ranch. Got a lot to see.
Okay.
What's this dog's name, Doggie?
Scooter.
And what were you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm going to introduce you to him. Come up and meet Scooter.
Hi, Scooter. Doggie, where are you taking us now?
Well, we're going to go over here and feed some calves, and then we'll go around and go up on top of the hill over there across from the house.
This Sapio, is that how you say the Greek River? Sapio?
Sapio.
Is it? Are we right beside it here now?
Yeah, it's right down here.
And what does it join somewhere down the way? What?
Well, it joins the Moore River, and then from there it'll go to the Canadian River.
Oh, okay, Canadian. Yeah, and that Canadian goes all the way into Texas and
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma. Oh man, really?
Yeah.
And the headwaters are up here, huh?
Yeah.
How about that?
Well, I've got to tell you more about Jack Yukon. You know Garth Brooks. You know who Garth Brooks
Right.
is? Well, he was from Yukon.
I didn't know that.
Jack was, after he moved out there and Garth Brooks became pretty famous, well, there was a group of people that came by one day and wanted to get his opinion about changing the name of that road that went by his house. He says, we want to change this to Garth Brooks because he was famous. Jack says, well, I'm pretty famous too. Why don't you just name it Jack Cobb? I'm stopping here just to show you a point of interest. This is just at the beginning of this hill that we're going to go up. The old Santa Fe Trail that came through here went right around this point of this hill, came across the river right below us, and then went off to the south here, up by that tree that you see. All that erosion that's along the interstate, those were caused by the ruts of the old Santa Fe Trail.
Doggie, we're sitting up here on top of the ridge looking off into the Sapio River and the old headquarters that your grandfather, or great-grandfather built, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him and what you know about him, how he came to this country, and I understand that he was from Germany.
Yes, he came to this country when he was 20 years old. He had a better education than the people that were living here, of course. No one in the area could read or write at the time, and he was fortunate to be able to get ahead because of his education, I guess. But he was like many other young people in those days. They were all interested in going to California during the gold rush back in the mid-1800s, and he finally worked his way to Independence, Missouri, and got on a wagon train and worked his way towards California. And Watrous Valley, this valley on the Sapio and Moore River, were very popular in those days because of the water, I believe. And he didn't go any further than Santa Fe, and he didn't have any money, and he was employed finally by the Army, and they hired him more or less as a scout. And that's kind of hard to believe, being a scout in this country, and he came from Germany, but nevertheless, there's a lot of history behind Mr. Krennic. He worked his way up through the mountains, through the harsh winters, all the way up into Colorado, and was instrumental in establishing the town of Canyon, Colorado, out of Pueblo.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally made enough money and gathered up enough cattle and sheep and drove them back to this country. He had to cross the Arkansas River, and that's kind of interesting. When he came across the Arkansas River, and he told the people that were helping him, they says, well, we'll cross the river and we'll camp. Well, they did that, but then the mosquitoes got so bad, he says, we have to break camp and get away from the river. Anyway, he got back into this valley and eventually ended up in the Watrous Valley area, and he purchased the Barclay's Fort from Alexander Barclay, who was the Englishman that built the fort. It wasn't really a military fort. They called it Barclay's Fort, but it was more of a trading post on the Santa Fe Trail. And from there, he started making quite a bit of money, I guess, from that period of time on. And he started buying land in this area. And he eventually, after the Santa Fe Railroad came through in 1879, well, that kind of did away with that trading post on the Santa Fe Trail. There wasn't no need for having the ox train come through there any longer. So he moved up to this location where we're at right now, and he put in the store right there next to the house. He built that house in 1883, and he went on from there until he died in 1900.
Well, this is a beautiful spot to talk about him and the family. I love these stories and the history of this land. And of course we could go on with Mr. Watrous, who came here and worked with your great-grandfather. I know you told me a little bit about that, but we've got to move on down to the headquarters.